Saban fired up. Well, Michigan coach Jim Harbaugh fired back at Saban's comments about satellite camps with this tweet. Amazing to me. Alabama broke NCAA rules, and now their head coach is lecturing us on the possibility of rules being broken at camps. Truly amazing. Skip Bayless, whose side are you on here, Harbaugh or Saban?
Stephen A. and Molly, I'm definitely on Jim Harbaugh's side here. And I must tell you, Stephen A., I'm getting a great kick out of how Jim Harbaugh continues to get under the skin of the great Nick Saban, how he appears to be, dare I say, making Nick Saban a little nervous. And I'm loving it that a Big Ten coach has the audacity, as you would say, the unmitigated gall to stand up to an all-powerful SEC coach. Jim Harbaugh is coming. Nick Saban knows he is coming. I, for one, would not bet against Jim Harbaugh winning a national championship in the next couple or 3 years. I wouldn't bet against it. Now, I get Coach Saban's one big problem here. This is yet another avenue that could pave the way for a disreputable third party, an AAU-style rogue, as they call them, street agent, to start up a camp so that that quote-unquote street agent could get his hooks into a young high school player who had potential greatness about him. It's the whole AAU syndrome that has plagued college basketball. So Coach Saban is saying, well, why would we open that potential Pandora's box, as we just talked about? But in this case, a school can also start up its own satellite camp, the way Jim Harbaugh is starting up several satellite camps, and all of a sudden, it's a legal way for a head coach, if he wants to spend the time and the effort to get to know a good player early on, to get close to him, to ingratiate himself with that player so that that player may be a little more inclined to go to Michigan instead of go to Alabama. The problem here for Coach Saban is, and a lot of other very successful head coaches, these camps are springing up in a month in which a lot of those coaches are gone fishing. This is their vacation time. I'm sure Coach Saban would love to be on vacation, fishing, or playing golf somewhere. But no, Coach Harbaugh is taking no vacations because he is trying to build something at Michigan, and now he has a legal way through a satellite camp to build it more quickly, to make more inroads against an Alabama or any big SEC power. I got to tell you, I love it.
Well, I don't mind it. I'm not on anybody's side here, and I'll openly confess to you, Skip, I kind of need your help on this matter, because when you talk about the satellite camps, my recollection of it is that satellite camps allows a football coach to travel long distance to work as a guest, not a host, but a guest. Okay?
But you can run the camp.
At camps hosted by other institutions. You can go and run the camp as a guest a particular day or whatever the case may be. You're not allowed to host it, right?
You can be an instructor. You can teach drills and
absolutely.
And you know, any sort of, you don't do strategy.
That's my understanding of it.
Technique,
That's my understanding of it. But here's where the trick comes in, okay? Usually, as it pertains to the SEC and the ACC, at least as of last year, if you were outside a 50-mile radius, you were prohibited from participating in it in certain conferences, like the ACC or the SEC.
Correct.
But that's not the case in the Big Ten.
No. Well, now it's not. Now nationally, the NCAA first outlawed the camps and now is saying recently it's okay.
It's okay.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, originally, Jim Harbaugh's zest to do this almost had an unfair advantage, because if you can use such a phrase when it comes to the SEC, you know, he almost had an unfair advantage because his conference found it permissible, whereas the SEC did not. So Jim Harbaugh could come to a camp. Let's say they talked about some high-powered high school program in Prattville, you know, Alabama or something like that, right? He could go there, but Auburn and Alabama couldn't because it was 70 and 90 miles respectively away from that.
Right.
So that's an unfair advantage. But as long as the advantage is the same, then I have no issue with it. And then it does come across as Nick Saban crying sour grapes. Because as long as the rules are applicable evenly to everyone else, he should have no complaint. But if for some reason it's not, or for some reason this is yet another thing where you'd have to worry about violations coming down upon you by the NCAA because of their interpretation of what exactly is transpiring, then Nick Saban is making sense. Because I didn't hear him complaining about Jim Harbaugh. I heard him complaining about the NCAA. He was talking about how there needs to be an overseer, so I don't have to worry about if I'm communicating with somebody running one of these camps, that I don't then have to worry about the NCAA coming down the pike and accusing me of engaging in some kind of violation.
Correct.
To me, that's not I don't have a problem with him complaining about that. And to me, it's kind of lowball for Jim Harbaugh to get on Nick Saban about that if Nick Saban is complaining about the NCAA, because I don't hear him complaining about the satellite camp as it pertains to Jim Harbaugh. I hear him complaining about the satellite camp as it pertains to some action that the NCAA can, subsequently exact against a particular coach or a particular program. And considering how they nitpick, meaning the NCAA, I don't blame that for being a concern for any college football coach.
Okay, I hear what you're saying, but in the big picture here, remember, Harbaugh fired back on Twitter by poking the bear, or at least the new Bear Bryant at Alabama, Nick Saban, because
that's what he does.
He referred to, that's right, he referred to an assistant that Nick had to let go, who lost his job because of a recruiting violation. So he's saying, what a hypocrite you are, because under your own nose, you had an assistant who messed up. So, again, that's some unmitigated gall on Jim Harbaugh's part.
It is unmitigated gall on the part of Jim Harbaugh. And you know me, I'm a huge fan of Jim Harbaugh. But I would respectfully disagree with him here, and I think he's being insensitive to the actual argument that is being made. He's too busy looking at the individual and his program as opposed to looking at the argument that Nick Saban was making. Nick Saban was making an argument against the NCAA, saying that you have yet another excuse to bring a heavy hand down upon a program when the violation is relatively vague based on what you're allowing to transpire with these satellite camps. That's potentially a legitimate argument.
No, it is, and that's what I said to start off with. But the point is, remember Jim Harbaugh at Stanford going after Pete Carroll at USC? Remember when he'd just go right after him publicly? And they clashed on the field after the game. Carroll, I can't remember what Carroll's line was. What's your problem, I think it was. Well, so Jim Harbaugh breaks all the coaching rules.
That's fine.
That's just the way.
And we love him for it. And by the way, we love him for it. We love him for it. And I am a huge fan of Jim Harbaugh. But let's be clear. There's no national championship on his resume.
No.
Nor is there a Super Bowl title on his resume.
No.
So,
almost.
he might be coming. But nothing takes away from the multitude of national championships
I agree with
that Nick Saban has already won.
No, you're right.
So pump the brakes just a little bit.
Well-oiled machine there at Bama. According to ESPN Insider, Bama has the second-ranked freshman class coming in, and Michigan the sixth, so not too shabby on either end. Squad goals, Chef Curry or King James? Which superstar squad should be more confident heading into the rematch Thursday night? That's the debate next.